Hello, everybody. Welcome back for more EmblemCon. It is day 4. We are halfway through the day, and we're starting to wrap up here, but we still have some panels left over today. We have with us one of our other special guests invited to EmblemCon. It's Nagapedia. Hello, how's it going?
All good, everyone. How you holding up?
I'm surviving. There is a lot that we go through, and by the time we reach day 4, we start to feel it, but we're still working together as a team to make sure that everything goes as smoothly as possible. So thank you for asking. I'm so happy that our guests are so appreciative of how we're doing. I've had multiple people asking me, "Are you doing okay, man? Are you are you having you and the mod team having a
Maybe,
good
maybe
one?"
we can maybe we can hear it in your voice that it's getting late. We're almost done. A few more hours.
I'm doing my best. I got like a panel, not even after a panel, but like a Smash Brothers fight night happening a little bit later this evening, and I am
Gotta be
I
tough. It's gotta be difficult. People have a lot of chances to beat you this time.
yeah, you know what? If I've done anything wrong during this panel, that is your opportunity to beat me up and show me where my place is. So, but but that aside, we were so happy to have you here this year, Nagapedia. We've have a lot of people in the community who I believe know exactly what you've been doing on the internet on YouTube. But would you like to just go ahead and introduce what it is that you do on the internet for those who aren't aware?
Of course, yeah. I'm Nagapedia. Pedia for short because I have multiple channels where I talk about not just Fire Emblem but also Mario and Pokemon. And it's very simple, really. I just make videos about everything that inspires me about Fire Emblem that I can think of about Fire Emblem every week. And that's basically all I do because I don't do anything else.
So you're saying that you also do channels aside from just Fire Emblem. What are some other avenues on YouTube that you do that you talk about that are also coincide with Nagapedia?
Yeah, just like I do Nagapedia weekly, I also talk about Piantapedia, which is my channel about Mario, and Pichupedia, which is my channel about Pokemon. And it's basically pretty much the same content. It has happened several times that I've basically made the same video on different channels about different topics, obviously. Like I don't know, talk about Fire Emblem classes one week and then trainer classes in Pokemon in the same week. Like it's basically the exact same idea, just with different series.
I've already seen in chat just frame one sobbing saying, "How did I not notice Plant Pianzopedia is the same person?" And I think we were discussing this just a moment before we went live.
Yeah, I told you. I told you. I literally a few minutes ago, behind the scenes, I told him there are so many people who don't know it's the same person, even though they subscribe to multiple channels. But I've learned my lesson. I'm gonna tell people from now on. I'm gonna tell people from now on.
That's so funny. Yeah, we'll definitely be promoting those throughout the evening. But oh my gosh, I've been watching Nagapedia as well very recently. I think the most recent video we saw that was uploaded just a couple of days ago was like the most messed up
Mhm.
moments in Fire Emblem that you can do. And
Yeah.
that's definitely like what I love about the channel is that there's a lot of topics on there where there's things that you don't normally think about like the moments in the Fire Emblem that you don't normally um bring to attention, like the worst tropes that you see in Fire Emblem, like the best and worst of the Fire Emblem localizations, things like that. Like there's so many unique
Mhm.
videos on here that I've really delved into, and I appreciate someone going taking the time to do that sort of thing.
Well, thank you first of all, and secondly, I think it has a lot to do because actually because I have those other channels because it happens so much that I think of a video about, like, say, Pokemon, and then realize, wait, I can apply this to Fire Emblem too. So it kind of it crosses over between everything, and I think it has a lot to do with that.
That's a real natural flow. Like there's a lot of people on YouTube that I know that they have that kind of creative block that they're not sure what they should, address or go to next. But being able to kind of relate these channels crossing over and being able to create something based on the other one and still have a lot of interesting things to talk about, that's very clever. It's a very clever way to approach these sort of things.
And I gotta say, I've never really had a problem with like a creativity block or anything. I've been making weekly videos on all three of these channels for 2 years, and I've never once had a moment where I was like, "Oh my god, I need a topic. I need a topic." No, I've always have multiple topics in the stash for weeks and weeks ahead.
That's such an important thing to have because there are others that I know like when it comes to content creation, it feels like when they're making videos, it usually starts off with a place of passion, right? But as time goes on, it's like, oh, slowly you go from making videos that you want to do because it's fun to doing videos like, oh, I feel obliged. I need to make something. I got to have something being put out. And they kind of lose that spark slowly over time. And it sounds like you still have that passion just very naturally put in there. And it shows in your videos as well. Um, have you ever I guess, have you ever had a have you ever observed somebody else where you kind of feel like their content slowly starts to feel like they're doing it because they have to do it, not that they're passionate about it?
I don't really know, man. I don't. I think so much time goes into that that I usually probably have already dropped someone who started showing that. But
Hmm.
I mean, I can't say for certain that will never happen to me, obviously. But it does feel like I could pull this for like 10 more years as long as Nintendo keeps giving us new content. I feel like that's that's mostly the most important thing. You know, if Fire Emblem takes another very big absence, then we might have trouble.
Oof.
But for now, I'm feeling pretty confident.
Yeah, especially when we're still all eagerly awaiting some Fortune's Weave.
Tell me
There's
about it.
a
I'm getting scared though because one of the videos I'm most proud of is my reaction video to Fortune's Weave. But Nintendo has now started dropping those videos whenever they want. So I'm feeling kind of antsy about that. I hope they don't drop it on us like they did with Star Fox 10 minutes ahead of time.
Yeah, when you're working a channel that does news and up-to-date stuff and you just get a notification that, oh, hey, by the way, we're gonna drop a huge bombshell in 10 minutes. Hope you see you there. We're just like all
Yeah.
scrambling to get somewhere to make sure that we report on this on time. It's just some of the aches and pains of having to do news and updates and on that kind of channel. But no, I think people not to say that they're overreacting, but we've also seen this happen with Splatoon Raiders very recently, where last
Mhm.
year we got that initial trailer. There was a huge gap of silence until very recently we got the release date for that game. And so
Yeah.
that's going to come out in July. So if they're following a trend here, I think Fortune's Weave might be the next game to get a big like Nintendo Today drop. And then we'll probably get a
It
release
almost
date.
has to be.
Yeah,
If it's not, I'm getting kind of worried. It really feels like they're getting Splatoon out the door, they're getting Rhythm Heaven out the door, and then it's Fire Emblem's turn. It almost has to be.
I think so. Yeah, they've got those, as you said, those exact games are lined up for July. So August would be like the earliest time, I imagine. It might be a holiday game, but I still think they're holding to their 2026 time schedule. Hopefully.
Yeah, I would really be shocked if Fortune's Weave get pushed. I don't
Hmm.
expect that.
But veering more a little bit to the side of content creation before we talk about, Fire Emblem itself.
Mm.
What would you say are your inspirations for starting a YouTube channel? Because I always see people asking others like, where do you get started? Like, how did you get into it? What do I need to start, doing all this sort of thing? But I guess from the from square one, like what started your little journey into content creation for the Pedia channels?
That's actually a bit of a weird story. I think probably different from how most people started because um, I wouldn't say my videos started out of not out of passion. They definitely did. I mean, you can't do this if you don't have a passion for it. But it's not like I started without the goal of building this up to something that I could live off it. You know, that was always a part of my plans. I had no diplomas. I had no job. I had basically nothing. But I knew that I did have a ridiculous amount of knowledge about all these various Nintendo series. So I figured I have to try to do something with that. It's not like I'm doing anything with my life right now. I need to try that. And I did. I just started doing it. I did fortunately already have a microphone, the same one I'm using still, because I used to make music prior to this. But you can still find the very first video on my Nagapedia channel about Lin mode in Blazing Blade. That's the first video I ever made. I had never made a video prior to that. I had never even downloaded it, edited software before I started working on that video. And it started a little rough the first month or so, but after that, it was basically running off on all the channels. And within like 5 months, I could live off this. That's how it started.
Oh man, that's wild. Yeah, I fortunately have the channel up right now. I do see Lynn's lessons. Those are the first one for
Yeah.
the brilliance of
Yeah.
Lynn's story and Fire Emblem: The Blazing Blade. Oh, that's so funny because like I recently done not recently, but I had done a video on Blazing Blade 2 once the NSO version came out. Mostly talking about how like it's such a good game for beginners to get into because
Mm.
like anyone obviously this was for those who don't know, the Blazing Blade was the first game that was internationally released and had a well at least had a Western translation for it. And so Lynn's mode was essentially our big overhand holdy tutorial to learn like how to play Fire Emblem. But we kind of needed that at the time. We didn't have these kind of games were not very common in that era. And so yeah, it's like
I think it did it really well too. I think it's a really well-made tutorial. If you look at like Pokemon now often gets criticized for being too hand-holdy and stuff, but I think Lin mode is such a good example of a tutorial in a storytelling way. It's like exactly like Sabmik says in the chat right now. It's a very um, story-based tutorial. Like that entire Lin story is basically a tutorial, but it's also almost a game in and of itself. It even has credits, which is it's such a novel idea, and I've never really seen anything like that.
yeah, the thing with the credits is just like because I had no idea, I had no expectations for what a Fire Emblem game is. So I'm like, once I beat the end of that story, I'm just like, oh, is that the game? Is it over? That was fun because I didn't
Yeah,
know
I
any
had the
better.
exact same thing. Exact same thing. Blazing Blade was my first game too, and I had exact the same moment where I was like, "Whoa, I didn't know Fire Emblem was that easy and that short." Yeah.
And then you realize, oh, it says 1 year later. I'm just like, wait, who is Elwood and who are all these characters? And I'm just like, oh, this game is actually a lot bigger than I anticipated it would be. And it was during those like first chapters of Elwood's story that I'm just like, wow, this is actually very substantial, and I'm a fan of what I'm playing right now.
Yeah, yeah, same, same.
So Mike is saying Kid Icarus Uprising moment. That's true. It's the Kid Icarus Uprising sort of like you do the initial story and it like they roll credits and then you're like, no, there's actually a whole majority of the game is behind this one section. But yeah, hmm, I haven't really seen anyone else doing like little look backs at games like these in this sort of way, and it's really appreciated that you're able to like do this sort of thing and just being able to continue finding that drive to keep doing all of these because there's a lot of little videos here that I know there's topics that I've learned a lot from just running through all these because they're not always addressed like the history of joke weapons in Fire Emblem, for example, like that's a whole topic that I wish I would have thought of myself. But man, you really nail these out of the park.
Thanks, thanks. But yeah, that's what you asked too about like inspirations. Like the inspirations when I started were a whole bunch of different channels, right? Some that you pretty much expect. Like, of course, if you're gonna do the kind of videos I do, you're inspired by Fargast, right? Who has been
Mm.
doing this stuff for years already, or PokeTubers, where this kind of content happens on so many channels that I'm hardly even revolutionary or doing anything different. But then there's also channels like yourself. GVG is something that was pretty much the first crew. You're not most of the guys aren't with Game Explain anymore, obviously. But back then, that was the first Nintendo YouTubers I ever watched, like over a decade ago, and I still watch that. You know that's a big inspiration in like the general tone. How you what I never try to do is get too negative. I try to look in a slightly positive or at least um, optimistic, like a well-intended way. I don't believe that um, the games are created necessarily out of a place of like greed um, or trying to muster hate in a fan base, and that's definitely something I've picked up from you guys. How what the letters even stand for, right? That positivity, that looking at it in a different way from. Let's be real, how many YouTube guys are out there right now basically just creating negativity for views? That is never something I wanted to get even close to. So that's definitely something I've picked up from you guys, and yeah, definitely there are also some channels though I think you wouldn't really expect me to be inspired from, and I'm thinking the first name is probably I don't even know if there's anyone here who has heard of this guy, but Chow Mix. Does that mean something to anyone? Let it know in the chat if you have ever heard of Chow Mix.
Chow Mix. I don't believe I know, but I think Tempest Mask might. Chow
Tempest
Mix.
Mask, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is this
Tempest Mask,
Sonic
yeah,
related?
yeah. This is I would say roughly the same kind of not literally the same thing, but it's the same kind of vision. And what I really enjoyed about his videos is that I'm really not that familiar with Sonic. I have played like Sonic Heroes and Sonic Adventure, and back in the day, in the GameCube days, but I never really kept up with it. I didn't really enjoy like the games that came then. But still, he managed to really grab me with his content because he brought like these deeper Sonic information and videos in a way that still kept someone a bit more casual engaged. And that's something that I've also really tried to do with all my videos. It's even if someone has only played Free Houses, then I still want them to be able to watch all my videos and still be able to like get what is going on there. And that is something that I've definitely picked up from him because he was able to basically get me into a series. I hadn't played a series Sonic game in so long, and then basically because I watched his videos, I tried out Sonic Frontiers. That's definitely something that was a big inspiration in the tone and how I wanted to create and write my videos.
I think that shows the sign of a really good content creator is that they'll portray the information in a way where you're not like you don't feel like your lack of knowledge is impeding your enjoyment of a series. It's just kind of presenting it as something to learn and to be interested in to get into. And like I know there's some people who like they've gotten into certain Pokemon games from certain channels because they were introduced to like people who do like they deep dives into lore or theory or something like that, or talking about all the trainers who do like all the gym leaders origins or something like that, for just a very quick example. Like, yeah, that sort of thing is so cool. Like I haven't heard of Chow Mix, but apparently there are people in the chat right now who are familiar and have been subbed to Chow Mix, so that's pretty cool to see that kind of that crossover there.
Yeah, yeah, it's like I can imagine that if you're like that's also just a big thing, that when I saw those Chow Mix videos, I was like, I wish there were channels like this for other series, and I still have that. I wish I had copycats who would make my kind of style videos about Persona or about Final Fantasy or about Dragon Quest and just about everything that's interesting. I would love that. I don't have the time for that, but I would love it if someone else would pick up that mantle because I think that what I do isn't really it's not groundbreaking or anything, right? It's not like I'm doing something that has never been done before, but it's something you gotta be the one to do it, right? You gotta get these topics and tackle it in a way that works for this one series. Really hone in on this one series, and that's something I think is kind of universal across all series.
Yeah, I think there's so many videos out there I can think of that I'm just like I wish I had thought of that, or ones that I've made that I've made these videos because I want them to exist. It's always important to make a video, to make content where you want to be watching that content yourself. You know, it's something that you want to have exist in the world, not just something that you throw out there out the door and you're just like, well, hope you enjoyed this one. But
Yeah,
no, I apparently apparently we need a Personapedia out there, or I guess
yeah.
Jackpedia. I saw Meg is saying in there.
Wikipedia, yeah, yeah, yeah. But that's especially why I decided to add Fire Emblem to the mix, right? Because it's not like Mario, Pokemon, and Fire Emblem are like the big three, right?
Hmm.
But I just felt with Fire Emblem, it felt like I was really adding something. Like I really felt that there were so many videos about Fire Emblem that I wanted to watch, but I couldn't watch because they didn't exist. And exactly as someone in the chat says, then fine, I'll do it myself. That was kind of the mindset behind it. Yeah, yeah. It's kind of weird too because when I started, I actually also had a Metroid and a Zelda channel, which I
Mm.
eventually dropped because making 5 videos a week was getting a little much.
Oof.
But I had never expected that Fire Emblem would last and Zelda would not. But that's simply because the community embraced me so much that I felt more confident that I was adding something valuable to the Fire Emblem sphere rather than with Zelda, which I obviously am also proud of the videos I made there. But Zelda didn't feel like with Fire Emblem still, it almost feels like it's me or no one, right? And with Zelda, it was kind of different. Um, so yeah, it's still a special channel, even if multiple, and of course I love all my children. But Fire Emblem is a special one for me.
Yeah, it definitely feels like for Fire Emblem, there's a wider ocean of people, of room for people to make their own content and contribute to that, opposed to some of the bigger series, like you mentioned with Zelda. Like, for example, do you know the channel Zeltic?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, of course. That was someone that I in the Zelda space. He's basically right. He's untouchable, right? So, but I was basically doing the same thing as he did. So it kind of made me feel like, okay, I could continue doing this, but let's be real, Celtic is always gonna be supplying these exact type of videos too. And with
Hmm.
Fireman felt more like, okay, Fargas is kind of doing it, but Fargas is not even close to as active as me. Um, so yeah, like I said, from the moment I started, I felt very embraced by the Fire Emblem community. I knew the kind of videos that I made really didn't exist in the Fire Emblem space, and I could also see that in the audience. Right, you could see a certain back when the Mario videos and the Pokemon videos were still very much in their infancies, and there wasn't really a fan base forming. I could already see that Fire Emblem that was happening. I would say that, well, nowadays my Pokemon and Mario channel are absolutely bigger, which is obviously because the series are much bigger. There's still arguably a bigger sense of community among the Fire Emblem videos, and I know I can count on those videos to always hit like a certain baseline because there's just a bigger core audience there that just wants to watch a Fire Emblem video every week, right?
Hmm. Yeah, it really took something like EmblemCon to help me realize just how large and supportive this whole community is, because I see people from all over jumping into here, fans of Fire Emblem who've been here since the very beginning, whether it's the Japan exclusive ones or the ones that came to the West back in the early 2000s, or it's people that are just getting into the series for the first time with games like Three Houses and Engage. It's just like it's always so nice to have a community where they're not trying to gatekeep you. Like, there's definitely some communities where it feels like if you don't like this series or if you don't enjoy the series the way that I do, it's not going to be you're not allowed to be here. And of course, there's some of that here. It is some of that in every community. That's just the
Mhm.
reality of things. But I found the Fire Emblem community to be a lot more like welcoming and inviting and just supportive of each other, which has always been so nice to see.
Yeah, yeah, no, I definitely agree. I mean, it's not like I haven't had negative comments about when anything, but that's kind of comes with the territory. And like I said, it's the as opposed to like Pokemon and Mario, I definitely feel more. I get a lot more positive vibes back from my Fire Emblem viewers. I feel like
Hmm.
those comments are always nicer to me than any other. And it kind of yeah, what is like I said, it makes you feel very welcome. I think that's a beautiful thing.
Oh man, do I know a thing or two about YouTube comments that make me want to like not really do a video for the rest of the day? The
Yeah, tell
algorithm
me about it.
is a scary and dangerous thing, but no, it's always nice to see something that you put all this passion into, and then there's genuinely a lot of people out there who love to watch it. They'll share it, they'll say nice things about it, and it's just that drive that helps you go forward and keep doing more. At least in my situation, I'm
Mhm.
sure that may resonate with you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. What for me the absolute craziest um, thing about it for me, something that I never like. You don't think of that when you start, but that you actually kind of impact people's lives. Like not in a big way, not in like a life changing way, but you become part of their routine, right? You become part
Mhm.
of the choices they make in their life. I have had quite some comments from people who very simple who bought Free Hopes because I was very positive about it. And then they played it and they loved it. And now they play all kinds of Muso games, right? Which is
Mhm.
just, it's a very small thing, but it's so crazy to me that I can have that impact on people who probably live in an entirely different continent from me. That's something that's so, I don't know, I can really process that in my mind. I think that's a very special thing that I never expected would ever be a factor when I started.
Yeah, I mean, Elpis of Hope in chat is saying one of my favorite videos I look forward to on Fridays is Pedias. So it's definitely it's so cool to see people have this routine. Like they can look forward to something to come from their favorite content creators and be able to kind of just unwind because like in some cases it may not be like the most we're not earning like thousands of dollars doing YouTube videos, but I feel like the majority of the kind of like the kind of good feels I get from this mostly come from those who can say that they enjoy this. Like they do get involved in games that they haven't maybe tried before because of how positive you were on it. And to think that, someone gets into a series that is as long as Fire Emblem or other games like Persona, for example, or Pokemon, like that's impactful. You help them to opened their eyes to whole other series, and they've delved and indulged themselves into these sort of things that they normally would have never done otherwise, and that's so cool.
It's a very special thing. It's exactly the kind of thing that you never think about. You know, when you start, you just and even still, I'm just a guy sitting right now in a room talking to a microphone. So it doesn't feel like I have any impact on anything outside of my house. And yet that is definitely not the case. And that I think that's a very special feeling. You know, just to hear that. Yeah, people look forward to the Friday not just because it's a weekend, but because they can drive home from work listening to my video. I know that's crazy to me.
That is exactly the sort of thing I did with Game Explain. When I used to work at a place where I would have to drive back and forth, but it was a very long drive where a highway had so much traffic. So I would always have their discussions and videos playing in the background, and that always helped me to stay awake. And to think that these many years later, like they would go and start their own crew with GVG, and to be kind of invited in there in a very strange way, but to be able to just join them and do the sort of things that we do now is very surreal when I've been listening to these voices for so long. And I'm never ungrateful for the kind of opportunities I've had. Like, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be here chatting with you right now if it wasn't for them. So I'm very grateful to the kind of things that they've, introduced me to. The content creation world, it's not super huge. When we find our circle, we kind of stick together and help each other out. And I'm very grateful for like this kind of family that we've able to find over the years.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I mean, I literally have that right now. I have heard your voice so much in my life that I'm feeling exactly the way you feel. You know, I those videos like that Derek does. You know, with the polls. You know perfectly what I mean. I don't know how to describe it exactly, but I've heard literally all of those. Like you have that role for me. So that's in the same way. I know it feels weird to hear that because I find it weird to hear that when people tell me. But it's like that, you know. It's a weird sort of cycle in that way.
Oh shucks, I'm gonna blush while we're doing a panel for Nagapedia, not for me. But no, it's so funny that we can relate in these sort of things because, like you mentioned earlier, like there's some times where I live near the one of the Nintendo World stores, and I've gone
Mhm.
in there sometimes when there's like a big release of a game, and someone would be like, "Are you from GVG?" And I'm just like, "I am." And it's like, what do I do? What do I say? Someone recognizes me out in the world. It's such a weird feeling. And to know that I've impacted somebody to like have a conversation about literally Fire Emblem. Like we were talking about how my hoping for a genealogy of the Holy War remake, like they were also hoping for the
Mhm.
same thing, and that they didn't know that one of the artists that they do for the series Suzuki Rika also did some art for Awakening of genealogy characters, and just to have a random conversation like that with somebody you just meet, it's such a cool feeling. And I bet at some point, if you keep this up, you'll have that experience too someday.
I think I don't know. I would probably have to show my face first because the thing is that I'm not American. I live in Europe. I live in the Netherlands, so I don't even speak English in like my daily life. This is the first English conversation I've had in years. So
Oh
my
man.
voice in Dutch sounds quite a little different. So I don't think people would recognize it if I would just speak. Even if had they watched all my videos, I don't think people would recognize me based on my voice. But that's my suspicion.
I'll
But
get
yeah, I
my
mean, if I keep doing this. Hmm?
I'll get my friend John out there because he's over there in the same country, and I'll be like, "Hey, John, I got someone I want you to meet," and then you guys can hang out for a bit.
Talk about someone who can't go anywhere. John's voice, everyone would recognize John's voice. He doesn't recognize this problem at all.
I don't know how he does it. You look at the man, and he has like the deepest velvety voice that you ever could have imagined. I'm just like, how do I live up to this? People will say things about other people's voices, but when it comes to John, that's a whole other level.
Yeah, no one can live up to that.
But since we're delving a little more into like Fire Emblem itself, I am curious, like as far as Fire Emblem as a series goes, where did you start with this series? Like, what was your first game that you got introduced to with Fire Emblem?
I was actually pretty late to it. I didn't play Fire Emblem until I was like well into my late teens. Um, and I would say my first Fire Emblem game was probably Pokemon Conquest because that was the game
Hmm.
that made me recognize. Wait, strategy games are fun. I had known about like Fire Emblem through Smash Bros, of course, like everyone. And I always thought like Ike was cool, like in Brawl. I really, really liked Ike, like everyone does. Um, but I just kind of, I don't know, Fire Emblem didn't really grab me. When I saw like screenshots or footage about the GBA games, that never really, I don't know why I never saw the Tellius games for some reason, but um, it was just, it didn't grab me until I played Pokemon Conquest and realized, holy shit, this is super fun. And then yeah, that from there on, I never looked back. Played Blazing Blade first, like we touched on, and from there, I think Sacred Stones next, then Awakening, and from there on out, I don't remember. But that's kind of how I got into it.
Man, I hear so much about Pokemon Conquest. I feel like I'm doing it a disservice by not playing it yet because of how much they. It's so easily imaginable that they could have just each had a Pokemon and a Fire Emblem character partnered up, and I always
They were
think to
supposed to
myself,
do it.
yeah,
It was supposed to happen, but they scratched it because Conquest already exists, and so they went with Tokyo Mirage sessions. That's how it went. It
hmm
was supposed to happen.
yeah, yeah. It's like I think to myself, can I do a video one day if we actually take a bunch of lords from Fire Emblem and pair them up with a Pokemon? I think that'd be interesting to do too. But oh, Pokemon Conquest, I wish there was like a sequel to give me a reason, more of an excuse to do this again, or to go back to the first one because the concept is so funny to me.
Maybe someday, who knows? I mean, they're the same team behind Warriors, right? So maybe they
hmm
one day make another Pokemon crossover. Who can say no?
Yeah. Since you brought it up, did you have you also played Tokyo Mirage Sessions? Since it's not necessarily like a actual Fire Emblem title itself.
I played it when it first came out, but I played it very briefly. I have never finished it, but I do want to go back to it because
Mm.
ever since I found newfound love for Persona, which I didn't play back then. So with that in mind, with the Shin Megami Tensei experience in mind, I do want to give it another shot. But I haven't played it in full. I've only played like, I don't know, maybe like 10 hours. I don't know how long the game is exactly, but something like that.
Mhm. Oh, man, yeah. I mean, we have a lot of Tokyo Mirage Sessions fans on the team here at EmblemCon, and we'll all tell you with great enthusiasm, yes, please play it because it's such a unique title. Like for as dark as Shin Megami Tensei is, it's such the complete opposite of that, where it's so bright and cheery. From battles that are just they look like they're on a concert stage to just like the
Mhm.
overworld where all the people are like colorful silhouettes. It's so artistically striking and unique, and the battle system is so much fun too. We're having like units follow after each other for doing all the follow ups. Yeah, if you haven't been able to, I would super suggest getting Encore on Switch if that's not the one you have already, because yeah, it's such a fun ride with that one.
I definitely want to jump back in, especially now that I have even more experience with Fire Emblem than I had back then. I don't even remember if I had played like the Arcania games, which it draws heavily from. But I do remember being disappointed and feeling like it wasn't really a crossover, if you get what I mean. It feels very much like a Shin
Hmm.
Megami Tensei spin-off with a little bit of Fire Emblem in there. It never felt like it was truly a collaboration. Like for example, Pokemon Conquest definitely does feel like that. I don't know if Tokyo Mirage Sessions really feels like that. Would you, if you've played more of it, would you say it changes or?
Yeah, it's so funny when you consider how it was introduced, like SMT cross Fire Emblem. You see all the lords, you see all the main characters from the Shin Megami Tensei series, and you're like, wow, what are they gonna do with this in like a modern day like Tokyo setting? But as time went on, you realize, yeah, it was that era where they really wanted to keep pushing Awakening because much like with Fire Emblem Warriors, the first one, this one was just Arcanea characters, Awakening characters, and in that game, in Warriors, also Fates. But I was kind of disappointed, yeah, honestly, that it only had like Prom, Virion, Tharja, Sita, like some of the more popular characters for sure. But I'm like, there's a whole other wealth of characters you can pull from too.
Yeah, yeah. That was kind of what I ran into back then. That I was kind of disappointed in the way they distributed that and how they crossed it over. Because I do think there's way more potential in it than what I saw in those first 10 minutes. But that doesn't mean it isn't a great game. I it may be very great for what it is, but at the time I wasn't trying to play it as it was. I was trying to
hmm
play it as like a 50% Fire Emblem game, and it just wasn't. Yeah, you're right. Like Warriors has the exact same problem. I actually happened to play that again like a few months ago, maybe not even a few months ago, and that is definitely Warriors' biggest problem. Like,
Yeah.
how is Navarre in this game and Ike is not? Who decided that?
It's so crazy, yeah. Like they at that time they didn't really have much faith in the rest of the series because it's like other than the first games which sold very well from like Mystery of the Emblem, the very first title, and other games where
Mhm.
Martha's come back for. Like he's a very recognizable icon of the series, also being in Smash Brothers. But then the same thing, yeah. Like Ike's been in Smash Brothers, Roy's been in Smash Brothers, but they weren't in the first Warriors game. I appreciate that they kind of at least dipped elsewhere with like Lynn and Celica, but like, couldn't you do more of that or
Yeah,
something?
especially when you look at like I can I can kind of accept that you don't want to make those playable. I think that's still weird, but I can kind of get on board with that. But if you compare it like to Hyrule Warriors, right? Hyrule Warriors references
Oh yeah.
everything across the entire Zelda franchise, and Engage has way more references in it than Warriors has. Warriors forgets that like 90% of the series even exists. And that is something that I really don't understand why they went in that direction. I guess that they didn't have any confidence in it, but I mean, it's still supposed to be a celebration title, right? No one is gonna buy that who isn't a Fire Emblem fan, I would think.
Yeah, yeah, I believe. Yeah, as you're saying, most people who touch this game, they're probably fans of the Fire Emblem series, and I guess they're trying to mostly appeal to those who were familiar with Awakening, because Awakening has a lot of references like to
Mm,
Marth, to Arcanea
yeah.
as well. So, but then they still added Fates. I guess that was just the newest one that was out at the time, so
Yes,
they
Fates,
wanted.
Fates outsold Awakening though, right? So
Hmm.
technically, you would think more people are aware of Fates than they are Awakening. But yeah, it was definitely it felt like a celebration of the 3DS era, which I can kind of get. But then you have like so many Arcania characters that feel very out of place. So I don't know. It's a weird game, but at least they took revenge with Free Hopes. At least.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think my biggest gripe also with the first Warriors is just that so many characters are just reskins of others that are already
Yeah.
they play so similarly. Where the whole point of Warriors, like for you mentioned, Hyrule Warriors, is that everyone has such a unique, diverse kit
Yeah.
of moves and everything that call back to their games, and some of them are unique. Like Azura has a completely unique moveset from everybody else, but pretty much everybody on the horse has the same moveset throughout the
Yeah.
entire game.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a shame. On one hand, I kind of get it because, like, even Free Hopes has that problem. Even though I still think Free Hopes is pretty much for what it set out to do is pretty much a perfect game. I don't even know how to really improve Free Hopes aside from some story changes. From the gameplay perspective, I think Free Hopes does pretty much what it has to do, and that also has the same problem because it's kind of Fire Emblem problem. You know, Zelda is a
Hmm.
lot easier in that aspect, so I can kind of excuse them for that, but according to that logic, Ike not being there is even more ridiculous. Like it's just a copy paste. How hard can it be?
I know, man. Ah, man, I would have loved Ike in a Warriors game. I guess there's still a chance sometime in the future if they ever want to delve back into it. But they
I do
accomplished
think
three.
they're gonna try again. I do think they're gonna try again.
Absolutely. Yeah, especially with games like Engage being super not afraid to delve back into games that weren't even released internationally. I hope that cast of characters in a Warriors game would be incredible.
Yeah, oh, for sure, for sure. But remind me here. Did Warriors release before or after Heroes? Because I think that also plays a massive role in the new confidence that IS has in the rest of the series.
I think the first Warriors was definitely um before Heroes
Or
because
definitely close.
it was close, yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much
But then,
simultaneously is what
okay, but
saw me.
that's pretty much the most important because that means it was developed before Heroes came out, and I think Heroes really showed IS that there's a lot of potential for characters we may not even know, but just like the design of.
Mhm. Oh, yeah, I think where a long time ago, there was a Fire Emblem Direct, and I'm trying to remember if those were in the same one because the Echoes was announced there, Heroes was there,
Yeah,
I
right.
think Warriors was there too?
Yeah, I think they were both. I think they were both there. I don't know if I think Heroes was definitely announced there, right?
Yeah. Okay, yeah, they were.
Maybe Warriors was already announced. I don't remember. I don't remember. Yeah.
'Cause, yeah, there was definitely yeah, I'm pretty sure Warriors was first because it was also on the 3DS, and then it also came out to
Yeah.
Switch later on.
Yeah.
Warriors released
Yeah.
late 2017. Oh, okay. I'm
Okay.
getting all my
Okay.
times
Yeah.
confused.
But the most important thing that's still true is that Warriors was developed before Heroes blew up. And I think that is a very important difference if you look at like how Warriors tackles the series and how Engage tackles the series. Because you can tell Engage is confident that people know Lynn super well. Whereas in Warriors, she's just a kind of an afterthought, right? She's kind of in the she's not even in the story, I think.
Yeah, she's basically she has her own little DLC
Yeah.
episode, along with characters like Celica, which I'm sure Celica was just there to advertise Shadows of Valencia, but Lynn,
Okay,
at
yeah.
least they threw us a bone there for someone from Alib at least.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think they're gonna revisit the concept again. I mean, Free Hopes was a very successful game, so we might get a Warriors Fortune's Weave version or just another crossover. But I do think it's gonna happen eventually.
I think so too, because the way Three Hosts was created, it's just basically a very naturally created and seamless transition into another game in Foldland. Like the UI, the way you
Mhm.
go to a base, everything. It doesn't feel like a Warriors game. It just feels like another Fire Emblem game
Yeah,
until you start getting into battle, and
really
I think that's
impressive.
so cool. Yeah, that's awesome. But let me
And
see here.
it's sold very well too. I think it's closer to Engage than you would think sales wise. So I definitely think it's gonna happen.
That is the power of three houses in Folan
Yeah,
itself. So I'm very
for sure.
curious to see how Fortune's Weave is going to do compared to Engage, because I know a lot of people were just disappointed that Engage didn't functionally work and mechanically work like just Three Houses the sequel. So
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I feel like Engage really. I don't. I don't want to say destroyed because I think it still sold okay-ish.
hmm.
Um, but it definitely didn't hit the same. I mean, my brother also plays Fire Emblem games, not as much as we all do here to be this into it. But he didn't even realize Engage was like a mainline game. He thought it was a spin-off. That's
Oh man.
how it felt. You know, but I think that really illustrates how it must have felt to a more casual side of the fan base, right? They were all the way in with Free Houses, and then they got Engage. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all that Fortune's Weave is going back to that same style.
hmm. Man. Do you believe in the rumors of a genealogy remake just kind of sitting there in the wings waiting for the right time?
I mean, I did, I did until this year, but
Oh.
I don't know, man. It feels a little too weird now at this point. But I mean, I think it's eventually gonna happen for sure. I mean, they're definitely not gonna stop making remakes when they said they were positive about Shadows of Valentia's reception. They were positive about that. And Genealogy to Holy War is a super popular game in Japan. So I do
Mhm.
think it's gonna happen. Um, what I don't know is what will happen after that. Because I don't know if they have the guts to remake Frasier.
Yeah, that's gonna be a tricky one. Like I'm really wondering how they're gonna handle that one, because I could easily see them kind of skipping over it and just finally doing Roy's game, because it's
Yeah,
crazy to
yeah,
me that Roy, after being in Smash Brothers for over 25 years, does not have his game in a way where we can access it.
yeah. True, true. Yeah, I made a video, I think about a year ago or something, where I predicted when every Fire Emblem game was gonna be remade. Um, and I really struggled with Frasier to the point that I could kind of see it becoming sort of like incorporated as a sort of like DLC. And I got a lot of hate for that in the comments because people thought it was like discrediting Frasier and like that was impossible. And I don't, I obviously that's true. I mean, if you turn an entire game into DLC, it feels kind of disrespectful, right? But I can't see them selling Frasier in any other way than that.
It was kind of originally just distributed that way with the cartridges that you can just kind of download the game onto a rewritable cartridge. Like that kind of just how it originally was distributed before they gave it its own release like years after the N64 was already in production. Like Doracia on SNE or the Super Famicom was the final game to release on that console because of how late it came into
Yeah.
development. It's just crazy.
It was honestly a miracle it ever came out, right? In
Hmm.
that time with when Fire Emblem 64 getting canceled, with all the problems with Shozukaga, right? It's a miracle it ever even happened, and then it didn't even do well in Japan. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if we never get a remake for that and they just skip over Frasier.
Yeah, that's a shame because like there's still so many characters unique to that story that are in Heroes, for example, on the mobile game that we see.
Yeah.
So it would be nice if it was at least something like. Of course, it's like a side story, and in the large scheme of things, it is a side story to the overall genealogy, Jogdrol. arc that happens in that game, but it's still important. I think people should still be able to see Leaf's story in some way or form, and having something that's like a DLC episode in a remake for JoJo for Genealogy might be that would be better than nothing, in my opinion.
And that was kind of my way of approaching it too. Like I can imagine that IS doesn't want to put the entire Frasier cast into the limelight, but that they do at least want to amplify. Okay, this Leaf guy is special, and you should know him, right? I can see
Hmm.
something like that, or maybe something with the other characters that do also appear in Genealogy, like Seth, those kind of faces. But an actual full-on remake of Frasier that feels basically impossible.
Yeah. Yeah, I know there are very strong Thracia defenders. We're not coming after you. We're just saying what we
Not at
feel.
all.
I feel like a lot
I
of
would
things
never.
that I say, people take it as like, oh, this is what he thinks and he hates this game. No, I do love all the Fire Emblem games that are out there equally. Some of them just, some of them are
Mhm.
harder to approach than others, and Thracia is just a very standout one from the others.
Yeah, I even if they would remake it, they would probably have to change quite a bit about the way the game works just to make it more accessible, right? It's
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like if you're a diehard Frasier fan, you don't want to get this game remade.
I'm even just thinking about genealogy. It's like, how are they gonna are they gonna actually divide the maps in a way where you can have checkpoints and not just be one massive chapter?
You
Um,
would have to, right? There is no way you can ask people to play a chapter that takes like 2 hours.
cause
I
like, yeah,
on a handheld, I can't imagine they wouldn't include like some sort of checkpoint system or maybe even separate it in like separate the chapters into chapters.
hmm
I don't know. I don't know how they would do it, but it does feel like it can be. But on the other hand, though, Shadows of Valentia is pretty decently loyal about guidance blemishes. I think to its own detriment. I would say so.
hmm
Maybe.
kind of like how the maps are still large, open, and
Yeah.
empty. Like they left it, they were
Yeah.
not unapologetically still the same, and I thought that was an
Yeah.
interesting way
Exactly.
to
They
take
they,
it.
they yeah, they kept every problem Gaiden had in Shadows of Valentia, basically every problem. So maybe they would. Maybe they would. I don't know.
Yeah, one thing I thought about was like if you were to do this again, the chapter that takes place in the Serenus Forest in Path of Radiance, I think they would adapt that kind of strategy where you do a segments and then your units will reset to a certain part at the beginning of the next segment. Like you can see the whole map that entire time, but I think they approached that in a way where they wanted it to ideally do it the way they would have if they had the hardware capabilities back then. That's just my speculation, but if that
Mhm.
just feels like a JoJo map in a Path of Radiance modern day game.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah, it could definitely be. I actually think maybe a fun test to see how they look at that because I personally suspect that Fortune's Weave might resemble Radiant Dawn a bit in the way it's gonna be presented. So maybe there might be something there that they're kind of looking at. Okay, what did we do right in those games? But I don't know how Japan views the Tellius games. I don't think they did very positively at the time, but I don't know if that has changed like it has here in the West. Like ask people their
Hmm.
favorite Fire Emblem game, is Tellius is always up there. I don't know what it's like in Japan and whether that has reached IS, but if it has, we might see stuff like that.
Oh, I hope so. You saying that if they approach Fortune Weave like Radiant Dawn gets me very excited because I love Radiant Dawn, despite the flaws that it has. But
Yeah, I think it's a great storytelling method for this kind of game, right? Like
mhm.
I think if you look at how Fortune's Weave is presented right now, based on what we know now, which is obviously very little, but I don't see a pick a house kind of game there.
Same here. Like, it doesn't feel like that right, as far as what we've seen thus far, it doesn't seem like it's going for that kind of narrative. Like, it looks like you're part of this one, like, championship, like this game
Yeah.
where you're competing, and maybe there's a path where you have Dietrich in one path and somebody else in the other, but there's
I'm
so
pretty sure
little.
there were already a few shots of that where Dietrich and I want to say Kai are on the same side, for example. So
Mhm.
there is already a bit of like interchanging there that Free Houses didn't have, at least if we put these four characters equal to the house leaders.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I took a nice analysis of that a while back, and I feel like I forgot some of it because it's just been so long since we've got any news on it. So I need to
It's
watch
been
my
a
own
while.
video.
It's been a while. I mean, they could drop a trailer tomorrow, and everything we said today might just be for nothing.
Man, don't Nintendo, I know you don't listen to us, but please don't date us that quickly. Like, at least let this be relevant for a little while. But we have about maybe 5 minutes left. I wanted to ask real quick because I feel like I haven't asked a very obvious question. What is your favorite Fire Emblem title in the series?
I would say my favorite Fire Emblem game is Free Houses. It's probably my favorite game of all time, to be honest. If I were to like rank all of them, I feel like Free Houses has to win for me. It's the kind of game that obviously I see its flaws. I think it's not perfect, but no game has ever sucked me into its world as Free Houses did. Um, I to the point that I don't know if I would even if it wasn't for Free Houses. I don't know if it's the best like overall Fire Emblem game if you're like talking the true Fire Emblem experience because it is a pretty different game from what most Fire Emblem games are. And I
Hmm.
wouldn't necessarily recommend it if someone asked me like I want to get into the Fire Emblem series, which would you recommend? I probably wouldn't say Free Houses even though I think it's the best game. But that's kind of why I love it. It breaks up what you think a Fire Emblem game is in the best way possible.
Yeah, especially when you do something like you see how they handle social interactions like Garrick Mach. Like you could spend so much time just running around, getting to know people, having food with them, support conversations. Like it's just a fun way to interact with characters that you haven't been able to do so. And I think that resonated with so many people, like the social and relationship aspect that really stuck out in people's minds.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's asking people to choose a side and then actually build up that side to be people you care about and almost become friends with you. That's a golden formula right there.
Yeah, and the fact that no route has it so that you're not fighting students that you were allies with just, hours earlier perhaps in some cases, like that kind of tension and that the world building of that game is so well done that I understand why many people are excited for Fortune's Weave and are just dying for more news. I'm just like, "Please, is it going to be
Yeah,
anything
it's
like that?"
it has to be. I think the smallest signs are already there that we're gonna get something with a world and a lore to the point. I mean, I have made videos about things in Free Houses and I didn't even know about. I still learn things about that world, even though I thought I knew everything by now. That's how much stuff is in there, right? That's
Mm.
how much lore and how much background was put into that game. And with Fortune's Weave being related to it, I can't imagine that it won't have something similar because that is what people have come to expect from Votlin.
Yeah, absolutely. So since we're towards the end here, can I rapid fire one question that I see in chat here to you?
Go for it.
Are
I
there
don't cheat
any
myself, so
are there any other creative avenues like voice acting, art, or whatever else that you'd be interested in pursuing? Is that's a question by Sobmik.
let's see. Right now, I don't know, but I've always found, like you mentioned, voice acting. I've always found that very fun avenue, though at the same time one that felt very impossible as a guy who speaks English with a European accent. That always felt like a very far away world to me. And even though you could do it in Dutch, but that's such a small like world
Mhm.
that never felt. But I've always felt like voice acting was something I would be good at or something. I don't know. It felt kind of right. Um, and furthermore, yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I made a lot of music before I started doing this to the point that I even tried to break into like the music industry in the Netherlands and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Um, but I don't know. That also kind of taught me that even if you think the art is very fun to do, then the industry isn't necessarily as much fun. And that's something that I've very much liked about the work I do now. That even though I do create like I did back then, like I would create songs, I now create videos, but there's not an entire industry that I have to get through and suck up to and do all kind of stuff with. I just post it online and the algorithm does its magic and now I'm here, right? So that is something that yeah, I don't know, but eventually probably. I mean, I'm a creative person. I'm always busy, so probably eventually something will definitely come up.
I believe it will. Like there's the algorithm works in many mysterious ways, and sometimes doors to opportunities opens when you least expect it. I love being able to
Definitely.
see and meet new people like I am today. It's been an honor.
Likewise, likewise.
Alex Superstar wanted to ask real quick as well, which creator would you want to collab with right now? Like just one person on the top of your head. What kind of collaboration would you want to do with
A very
somebody?
easy question. I'm talking to him right now.
Oh my God! Don't do this.
Of
I'm gonna
course.
I'm gonna be shy right now.
No, I mean we got to do it. I've this is kind of a sidestep, but I've recently thought a lot about um, doing videos that are a bit more like free form, kind of like ranking videos or like tier list, right? Which I would
Mhm.
never really do alone because I don't know when people do that alone, it kind of feels I don't know, it kind of feels off to me. I feel like that's the kind of stuff you have to do with someone. So I would love
Yeah.
it if you would come on my channel and we would do I don't know rank every Fire Emblem game or something. That would be great.
Well, you heard it
You're
here.
invited.
You heard it here, folks. I think at some point in the future you might see a collaboration, and I would love to do so. 'Cause there's a fun little collab function you could do on YouTube that I would love to take advantage of more often. But
Yeah, same.
yeah, I'm gonna keep that in. I'm gonna write this down. Hold on. But we are going just a minute over. Sorry, everyone that's waiting in the wings for the next panel. I don't want to take up too much more time because we have a wonderful panel by. Hold on. I'm grabbing this right now. I don't want to get the wrong person's name. Forgive me. Uh, Art of the Fic by Sarah Piplup is going to be up in just a couple of minutes here. And real quick, before we sign off, Nagapedia, can you let us know where we can find you on the internet?
You can find me on YouTube at Nagapedia. It's that easy.
I'm going to leave that link in the chat right now. Please go subscribe and also check out the other related channels that they're involved in because they probably do more than you expect, as we've learned today. Alrighty. Well, thank you so much for your time here today. I was lovely chatting with you for an hour, and we were so happy to have you here for EmblemCon.
Thanks so much for everyone who came. Thanks so much for having me. And don't forget to donate, guys. Come on.
Yes, please do. Despite the fact that we've reached our goal, we're still doing
I see it.
donations
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
for Doctors Without Borders. As we mentioned before, we are doing this for Doctors Without Borders, and we've had them on here for a couple of times now. We've been able to kind of collaborate and help out everybody who was part of that cause. And I'm gonna leave this to the next crew to describe this more because my brain is getting scrambled and I don't want to be leaving them waiting too long in the wings. So again, thank you all so much for hanging in there, for chilling with us. We're going to be back with more very soon, and we will see you around. Have a good one, all.